Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Papa John's, for having us, and thank you, Brand Innovators, for organizing this. I'm Daljit Ahluwalia. I am the moderator for today's panel, and I work at Adsmovil. I'm the Senior Director of Sales, and at Adsmovil, we help brands authentically connect to the Hispanic consumer. If you have any questions on Hispanics, please feel free to reach out. I'm thrilled to share the stage with such talented professionals. We have Sarah C. Sorry, I'm pronouncing this. Noftsinger. She's the Chief Business Officer at Atlanta United. We also have Nana-Yaw, Asamoah. Did I pronounce it correctly?
We're very close.
How is it?
Nana-Yaw?
Nana-Yaw, apologies.
Oh, good.
She's the Chief Commercial Officer at AMBSE Sports and Entertainment. And we also have Andrea Perez, who is a former marketing leader at PlayStation, Drug and Tonight. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Today, we're going to be speaking about our discussion centers around inclusivity in sports marketing. But before we jump into that, I'd like to get to know you guys a little bit better. If you could just explain your professional journey and your current roles.
I'll go first. Noftsinger, as you said. I'm currently Chief Business Officer with Atlanta United. My journey's definitely not been linear. It's been all over the map. Worked overseas. Worked here domestically, and somehow soccer's always been a theme. And the other theme for me has been building things. I've learned that the strength of mine is building brands. And so prior to Atlanta United, I was the head of sports marketing for soccer at Adidas, North America. And then prior to that, I was actually part of the Atlanta United team that launched the brand. I was there 2015 to end of 2019. So I've been back for about 5 months. I'm aboard with all the stuff that happened before that.
It's good to have you back. Nana-Yaw Asamoah, Chief Commercial Officer for AMBSE, AMBSE Sports and Entertainment. Just for those that you do not know, that's the holding company that owns the Atlanta Falcons, Atlanta United, and operates Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I've been in corporate partnerships essentially my whole career, 18 years. That started on the basketball side at the New Jersey Nets. I spent 14 years at the NFL, all within corporate partnerships, whether that being the activation strategy or sales side, which I'm on currently. And through that time also spent some time working across the international business for the NFL. So as the NFL was looking to expand both from a game presentation standpoint as well as a fandom standpoint in Europe, Asia, Canada, Mexico. I was part of that, as well as launching NFL Africa 3 years ago.
Hi everybody, how's everyone doing? I'm Andrea Perez. Up until recently, I was the SVP of brand marketing at PlayStation. Prior to that, I spent 19 years at Nike. My last role was starting the Jordan women's division. First, I'll give you my inclusivity vibes. I'm a Mexican immigrant, gay, and I'm a mom. So I need all the inclusivity, especially in sports for people like us. And second, obviously, career-wise, I spent most of my career at Nike. I wish I had more exciting things to tell you. I spent most of my career at Nike, then I moved to Jordan, which is still under the Nike umbrella, and then took a chance to learn something different by joining PlayStation, which was a great place. I've since decided to take a sabbatical to first and foremost work on elections and work on access to vote. Second, take care of my baby. You have a 1-year-old baby with someone else on this panel, right there. You gotta guess it.
When I was at Adidas and she was at Nike, we were a house divided, so then and they would continue to divide us.
And then lastly, to work on some ideas and take a chance to work on some of my own ideas.
Thank you all for sharing, giving you all your experience. I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation. So my first question is, how do you define inclusivity in sports marketing, and why is it important to brands?
You want to go first? I went first last time. We'll just go down.
Sure. Define inclusivity as providing access and resources to those that do not have it for marginalized communities. And as it pertains specifically to marketing and sports marketing, also awareness, allowing people to know that there are people that look like them, have similar thoughts to have similar thoughts like them that are participating in whatever it may be. Like when I think about a campaign we launched at the NFL around girls flag football, not only is it important to have the programs that are providing access for girls to play football and be able to participate in the sport, but it's also important to have a platform to tell that story so that girls know that they have the opportunity to do it. So not only building it, but having a platform to talk about it so they know that there are folks that look like them, that have interests similar to them, and they're able to participate in it.
Well, primarily, yes, it's great to have everyone feel like they belong, but there's also money on this. The NFL has a large percentage of women's fans. Soccer has an extremely high participation of women athletes. We go back to the NFL, I think something like 68% of your players are African American or Black. So why not speak to the audiences that have the love, that have the money to invest, that have the eyeballs and the attention? For me, inclusivity, it's great to do it because it feels good. We all want it, but it's also great because it's the right thing to do for your business and the right thing to do to build your business, to build your audiences, to get those eyeballs in your sport and in your brand.
Won't disagree with that, not just because she's in my household, but totally agree with it. To me, there's a number of different ways to look at inclusivity. I think they hit on two really important topics, and I'll hopefully hit on the third one. I think it's a mindset that you have to have, and oftentimes it may make you feel uncomfortable. Me as a white woman leader, I may be a gay leader and a gay woman and a mom, but I also have to think about all the people that I'm serving. One of the big things at our organization is putting people first and leading by example. And so making sure that a brand and what we're doing is getting ourselves uncomfortable and making sure that the sport that I have, which is soccer, it's one of the most diverse sports in the world. It's one of the most played sports in the world, if not the most played sport in the world. And so making sure that we're creating an environment where everyone feels welcomed and is welcomed and has a chance to have their voice heard and be seen.
Thank you. My next question is, how would you assess the current state of inclusivity in sports marketing? And I guess what can be done to further inclusivity?
I think it's a work in progress. So what can be done to further inclusivity? Where we are today is better than where we were 5 years ago, better than where we were 10 years ago, but we definitely aren't there yet. So it's not something to stand up and celebrate and say, oh, look how great we're doing right now. When I was at Adidas, I remember starting, and it was not equitable. So I oversaw female players around the globe, and then I oversaw male players in North America as well as teams and whatnot within North America. And the things that I saw, there was an opportunity to elevate women, female athletes, and so I really, really worked very hard to ensure that from whether it was a budget, whether it was a visibility perspective, whether it was campaign integration, whether that it was women debuting products. Oftentimes you think of a new product that's coming out and you see in the athlete world, they put it on the top male athlete. And this, you're not talking many years ago, this was right before I left, and so it was you have to be bullish and make sure that you have facts to support those conversations. And so for me, we still have a long way to go in that. I think we're making a more conscious effort, but it's not something that just because progress is made, we should stop. But you are seeing brands starting to think about it more, but it should be ingrained in our everyday thinking.
Would anyone else like to share or add to that?
Yeah, who can tell me two players that played in the in the NCAA women's event last time? I mean, most of you are able to tell me, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. Now tell me three guys. I mean, nobody knows who played on the guys' side. You gotta be a super fan, right? And I think that's an example of how investment and attention from media and brands on that sport has been able to so quickly accelerate attention to the players and then to the league, to the WNBA. Morgan Shaw must be so happy right now with Atlanta and moving those games to the big stadium. And I think that as brands, that's one of the things that we can do. And as marketers, that's one of the things that we can do. is investing in these narratives and investing in these players can really, really accelerate inclusivity as a whole, because as brands, we're creators of pop culture too.
Thank you for that. So how could a brand, connect with the fans authentically and do it the right way? And what are some challenges to that? And yeah.
I'll let you start your true marketing.
I'm a true marketer. I think the most important thing is first you have to know who your brand is, who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, and then you also have to know who your various target audiences are. Whether it's your primary, secondary, tertiary personas, and know who they are. And then you have to understand where it is the business is trying to go. And so from a marketing perspective, it's understanding that serving people that have the ability to impact your business today, but it's also important to grow and to include more. I think all of us, if we didn't see brand growth, whatever KPIs you might be looking at, if you're not seeing the growth, I think all of our bosses would probably look at us and say, what are you doing? I've been there before. And so from a consumer perspective, it's making sure that you're still growing and creating pathways to grow your consumer.
Yeah, I think it's about listening and responding, and knowing who your consumer is and the needs that they might have. And those might be apparent at some times, and others they may not. We were having a conversation internally at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We have the Rolling Stones coming for a concert tomorrow. And clearly that demographic is a little bit older than the demographic that we usually have within the stadium. So what are we doing from a facility perspective to make sure that those fans are comfortable when they're coming? Are we doing everything that we can do from an ADA perspective? So just always really thinking about what you need to do to serve your fan. And sometimes you need to just have diverse opinions. You might not be thinking about it until you have an instance with your parents, and I'm thinking about my mom, and if she was to come to the stadium, what that experience would be like for her. So just having very much a lot of people with different experiences at the table allows me to do that.
One more thing, it's really easy to open the Wall Street Journal, like harping on Andrea just said, it's really easy to open the Wall Street Journal and see all the coverage on women's sports. However, is that translating from a sponsorship perspective? Yeah, you're shaking your head. I bet everyone in this room has some budget visibility, and if you can look me in the eye and say, hey, yes, my brand is authentically investing on the women's game, I don't think many of us are. I don't think we are. And I think there's a big opportunity to do so. You've got some great ones, you look at WSL, you look at Ally, they are, and they mean it. They're not just doing it for the goodwill. They're doing it because they know that it actually is going to help their business and where their business is trying to go. And I think, for all of us to take a step back, and we're all in leadership roles, so we can do that. Same type thing when I was at Adidas, to take a step back and say, hey, if we do this, this is the impact it will have on our business, and it's time to do it. And you want to be on the front end of history versus the back.
That's a great point. You did mention bottom lines are important, but are there other indicators for success? How would you measure success? Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, you mentioned the bottom line, right? How important is that for success? But are there other indicators of success that you look at as a marketer?
Yeah, I think you can probably all chime in on that. One thing for us, we try to actually align our KPIs across all the different businesses or all the different functions of the business, regardless of just because you're on the social team, or digital team, or marketing team, or comms team, or the ticket sales team. We actually try to look at all the metrics. We keep them the same for all of us because we're all aligning towards the same thing. So while yes, you are looking at revenue stuff, for us it's show rates, it's attendance, it's new people that are coming into the stadium. How many new people have come for the first time? But even more important, are they coming back? Those first-time people that are engaging with our brand, are they coming back? We also look at how we show up in the streets, and we look at the engagement numbers there. How many new people are coming up, and then is that translating, and they continue to engage with us beyond that? And then we look at the why, and we look to see what are the actions that we're taking, how many touch points does it take, and then are we being authentic in the way in which we engage or communicating with them? If it feels forced, probably is forced. and you gotta follow your gut instinct on that and make sure it goes back to who you are, what you stand for, and know how to build relationships with people and how things can go away.
I mean, in the long term, we all want revenue growth. We want growth in brand love. One of the things for the brands that I've had the luck to work with has been that their brands ingrained in youth. And what youth cares the most about inclusivity of any demographic, consistently, right, over the years. And measuring specifically around metrics of youth, brand love around the youth, brand preference among youth, brand sentiment among youth, we think is really important when it comes to inclusivity, as it's the kind of metrics that are going to help us measure brand health for years to come. The brands that you decide you will love at a certain age are probably the brands you're going to identify yourself with for the long run.
Can each of you pick something that you may have worked on or best-in-class example of a brand doing it right with inclusivity?
Sure. I'll talk a little bit about NFL Africa and the Super Bowl spot that they had this year. They did that while I was at AMBSE, but as I said, I was as part of launching that. And I really resonated that, first of all, I'm first generation from Ghana. So as Andrea mentioned before, I think actually close to 80% of the players in the NFL are Black or of African descent. There's over 200 players that are either directly from the continent or first generation. And for a long time, we did nothing to speak to that demographic, to speak to the history, and to speak to just the players that were doing so much to benefit our game. So in 2022, we launched NFL Africa, and that was on 2 points. We went out there to provide, to develop and to build a player pathway system so that folks in the continent of Africa had an opportunity to see that they had the opportunity to provide a better life for themselves through playing the sport of football, when you had examples like Osi and Nana-Yaw and other players that were able to do that for themselves. It was also about really providing an opportunity for them to learn more about the game and to see themselves in other players and folks that were playing in the NFL currently. So this year during the Super Bowl, there was a spot that the NFL launched that was shot in Ghana, included Ghanaian youth, Ghanaian players, citizens from Accra, where the spot was shot. And what it did is really showed the journey of a child that is interested in the NFL and their opportunity to potentially play in the NFL one day. And I really thought that was a great representation of inclusivity, not only from a U.S. perspective, but from a global perspective. And really putting NFL on a platform to say that no matter where you're from, no matter what your circumstances are, you have the opportunity to realize this dream.
First, before starting with my own stuff, I do want to give a shout out to the NFL and Tim Ellis and Marisa. They also did a spot during the Super Bowl, 1.5 minutes on a flag football quarterback from Mexico. And as a Mexican and a girl that loved playing sports, that was such a beautiful thing to see. So I think that there's been some intentionality of that organization of recognizing the opportunity to expand both internationally among different demographics and different genders. Like I said, I spent probably my entire career trying to build inclusivity, particularly with women, and have worked across, doing it with tennis players, with soccer players, etc. But I think the thing that I had the most privilege in doing was the starting of Jordan Women's. For a really long time, the brand served women by creating kids' shoes or pink shoes that were made on kids' last and basically just size down. So start something from scratch that came from the community, that was built from the community. And I think at some point our goal was for women to feel like they could wear Jordans just like men can. And for men, Jordans are a sign of confidence. You wear them to your wedding, you wear them to the interviews, you wear them on your fanciest times in life. You feel like you can wear Jordan because it gives you confidence. Our whole thing with the brand was to build a brand for women that whenever they wore Jordans, they felt like they were just as confident as guys did. And I think that obviously the brand was nearly $1 billion when I exited, so it was really a great thing to see, a great thing to continue to see the inclusivity that they have. And the fact that we built it from the ground up, it wasn't celebrity-led, it was led from women of the community, from women from Atlanta, from Chicago, from LA, and from Perez, that we got together in collectives to help us shape the brand and do the creative around the brand.
So my next question is, you guys have access to athletes. How do they help you with your inclusivity marketing campaigns? Are they receptive? What are the challenges to working with athletes?
Athletes are perfect. Who in here has had to do a deal with an athlete? Let me see this so I can see you can empathize. The athlete evolution, again, if we were having this conversation 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even a year ago, it's constantly evolving. It's from a youth perspective and from, I would call amateur perspective. There's something I sit back, it's a pain in my butt now in the seat that I sit in, but I'm really proud of the voice that they have. And there's some incredible humans that have helped pave the way for that. But they're willing to stand up for themselves, and they're willing to take a stance, and they're willing to say, here's what I need. And they're not generally, they want to make sure that the brand in which they're partnering with, it's not just a random conversation, or it's not just about the money. As Andrea was mentioning earlier, there's an authenticity piece there, and they want to see the brands that are inclusive. And so it's making sure that you know who you are, you know what you stand for, and when you're building these relationships with the athletes, you're having honest conversations. And you're also listening to them. Back to one of the things that Nana was saying, you have to listen and respond to them. Their feedback is important because not only are they your partner, they're also your consumer. And so if you're not taking in those insights and then responding, it can lead you down a tougher path. But again, I think, athletes, teams, and I believe that sport, there's a unifying part to sport, that when you go watch a sporting event, Jacqueline was talking about the Celtics earlier, I can guarantee you that when she's watching the Celtics, she's not thinking about work. Doesn't matter if it's on TV, doesn't matter if it's on the radio, hey, good chance you're not thinking about work. But sports provide you that opportunity to escape your everyday life. And so by partnering with the athletes and continue telling their stories, it's really, really important for us to make sure that we're telling all the different stories, because we live in one of the most diverse countries in the world. And so showcasing all of their different stories and making sure that everyone has access to see them is an important thing. So can they be a pain in the butt? Absolutely, but I can be a pain in the butt. You can be a pain in the butt. And it's about listening and responding and continuing to have a dialogue with them.
Thank you for that. And this will be my last question before I open it up for Q&A. Throughout your career, I'm sure you've faced hurdles and obstacles. What advice would you give marketers for their future career and how they excel in inclusive marketing?
I mean, as a Mexican immigrant gay woman, you think I've faced any obstacles working in sports and engagement? No, it's been peachy. Surround yourself with a board of advisors that deeply believes in you. Happy to be on yours.
Be authentic to yourself. Don't think that you need to look at what success ahead of you may have looked like and recreate that, because especially as marketers, once again, I'm talking to you all, I don't look at myself as a true marketer, but you are one of the consumers you're speaking to. So if you're being authentic to yourself, there's someone that's going to resonate with that. If you're just looking to be like someone else in your organization or so, you're missing out on a demographic you could be speaking to.
It's really great advice, and you're immensely trying to, hopefully I can remember both of those. I've had a bunch of conversations recently, and especially as a gay woman, just because it's something that I went through doesn't mean it's right. So whether that was maternity leave or language that's used in an office, whatever, it doesn't mean it's right. And so I think for us as leaders and aspiring marketers, doesn't matter what level you're at, use your voice. And don't be afraid to stand up. Don't be afraid to rock the boat. Don't be afraid to make it better for the next generation. So I just say continue to use your voice.
Thank you for all that. Was very powerful. Any questions for the panel?
Question. I'll stand up so you guys don't see the back of my head. So I don't need a mic, do I?
I think because
I'm
we're being
kind of like
recorded.
you. I can talk very loud. So Tara Moye, Mercedes-Benz here. I could listen to you guys talk all day long because I am a sports junkie, former hooper. I have a college student who's a hooper now. So thank you guys for sharing your expertise. I want to kind of ride the wave about the women's basketball and this whole WNBA, and would just like for you guys to give us, as a brand, 1 or 2 or 3 key points or direction of how, because Andrea, you spoke about intentionality, you spoke about revenue, skate, you spoke about authenticity, right? And what I've seen in some brands, they've started to throw the WNBA logo on their TVC when they've never shown up there at all, right? And I'm a consumer, I'm a former hooper, I noticed that, right? So, and I know cancel culture is a real thing and backlash is real. So my question would be, for all the brand innovators in the room, what is the advice that you would give in terms of how should brands approach entering and supporting the WNBA outside of just slapping a logo on there? How can they be intentional in approaching and supporting and riding this momentum?
It's a loaded question. You want to go first?
No, keep it, because who knows, other people have questions if they need it. You know what you're saying is right. I was actually in a panel around women's sports a couple days ago, and it came up as well with a bunch of different marketers. And I gotta say, like, in one of the first things that we did in Jordan was actually a spot with Maya Moore. And she was one of the 2 people that launched the Jordan Women's Line along with Lily May. And with PlayStation, one of the first things we did when I took the job was expanding our partnership with the WNBA. So one is get in, because even if you're not the most authentic and everything, hey, the league needs the funds, the athletes need the funds, so invest in it first. But the second thing is walk the talk as well. And it is like, hey, what else can you do for these athletes? What else can you do in how your brand's representing these athletes? What else can you do beyond writing a check? How else can you support? And that has taken a number of different ways with different brands. Nike, for example, has WNBA former athletes that are working on campus, they're retired athletes, and they come and they get a job at Nike for 2 years, and most of them stay. There's people that are director level now that stay, and they don't need to be the superstars, they could be anything. So that's one way to do it is, can you host athletes? Another way to do it is, can you advocate for those using your brand as a platform? Can you celebrate those athletes in different ways? Can you think of different ways in which you engage the community? And some of these things are not that costly. Some of them may be included in your sponsorship or whoever you're sponsoring as well. So it doesn't need to be nothing outrageous, but it can be very significant if your brand expands beyond the check.
I think we have time for one more question.
Asamoah from Andrea. I just had a quick question. One, thank you for all the work you've done for inclusivity, sports marketing. I think there's great work being put in when it comes to gender ethnicity in sports, but I think a few groups that really left out are special needs and disabilities, especially when it comes to sports. Would you mind shedding some light on some of the work that your brand's putting into include these groups, especially breaking it out as well?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. That's where inclusivity, it can have a deep meaning and a pretty wide reach. So for us, I actually, part of my role as Chief Business Officer for Leading United, but it's also advising, leading, and supporting Arthur Blank's investments in the soccer space. So one of the investments he just made was the $50 million donation to U.S. Soccer, with the majority of that allocated to their extended national teams, and there's 27 of them. So it's ensuring that the new training facility down there that they have, that there's the right equipment for them. Locker rooms are different, but it's not just different generally. It depends on which team it is, which age group it is, and making sure that everything is specified to them, and then holding the partner accountable to do that. So it's not just give them the money and make a statement and walk away, but it's we're going to be there through the end of it, but then the end is a little bit vague, because the end is you got to continue to evolve, keep things updated as new technologies come in, holding the partner accountable to make sure that those athletes have the resources that they need. So there's things like that, and then there's also bringing visibility to it. But I'll just give you an example of one thing that we've done recently that was intentional. Because again, we've seen the power of sport to change lives and communities, and so continuing to bring sport beyond even just soccer, continuing to bring sport to all different types of human beings.
Thank you all.